The Japanese sentence structure is considerably different from the English one, which is why you might struggle making natural sounding Japanese sentences when you're just starting out. Hi, I'm Norman, and in this video I'll teach you all about the Japanese sentence structure, including tips and tricks that textbooks don't teach you, so that you can start making Japanese sentences right away and sound natural from the beginning. Let's dive right into it. As you might already know, English sentences use a SVO structure, which means that the subject comes first, then the verb, and then the object. For example, in I ate sushi, the subject I comes first, then the verb ate, and then the direct object sushi. Japanese, on the other hand, generally uses a SOV structure, which means that the subject still comes first, but the object and verb are reversed. For example, I ate sushi in Japanese is Watashi wa sushi o tabeta. As you can see, it literally translates as for me, sushi ate, showing the subject-object-verb structure. As you may have noticed, I said Japanese sentences generally use a SOV structure, so not always. In fact, Japanese sentences can also place the object at the beginning of a sentence, creating a structure that looks like OSV, where the object comes first, followed by the subject and verb. This is possible because Japanese makes use of these handy characters called particles, which are hiragana characters that show the role or relationship of a word within a sentence. This sentence uses the wa and o particles. Wa marks the topic of the sentence, showing that what follows is a statement about this topic, and o marks the direct object of the verb. Because particles clearly indicate each word's function, words can be rearranged without changing the basic meaning of the sentence. However, the verb cannot be moved. It must always come at the end of the sentence. This means that everything preceding the verb connects to it. Let's shuffle the subject and direct object in this sentence. Then it becomes sushi wa watashi ga tabeta. Here, sushi is marked with wa, which marks it as the topic of the sentence, and watashi is marked with ga, which explicitly identifies it as the subject of tabeta. Rather than being a strict OSV structure as in the same sense as in some other languages, here, it's better understood as fronting the object to make it the topic. So sushi marked as the topic of the sentence shows that the rest is a statement about sushi. So it literally translates as for sushi, I ate it. By using this structure, it's emphasized that I am the one who ate sushi. This kind of sentence could be used in a context like answering the question, who ate the sushi? Let's go back to verbs for a bit. While I just said that it must always come at the end of a sentence, it sometimes comes first. This is often done in casual speech to emphasize the action. Because people use looser sentence structuring in casual conversations, placing the verb first when you want to emphasize the action can even make you sound more natural when talking to friends and family. For example, imagine that you told your friend that you were gonna be eating sushi for the first time, and the next time you see them, they're super excited and ask you if you ate it. If they want to emphasize the action, they could ask you, "Tabeta sushi o?" Which means, "Did you eat it, the sushi?" Here, the verb comes first, followed by its direct object. By presenting the action first and then specifying the direct object, the speaker places emphasis on whether the action happened. Also, did you notice how the word for you and the topic marker wa are omitted? This moves us on to the next part, word omission. Japanese is a very context-based language, which means that sentences can be quite vague, but still understood based on the context. For example, in this sentence, anata, which means you, and wa are left out. Here, the context is that two friends are talking about sushi, and if one friend asks this, we can logically assume that this question is directed towards the other person, and as a result, we don't need anata wa. Word omission like this is especially done in casual speech, where you want to convey as much information as possible while saying as little as possible. In more formal situations, it's best to use particles to make the sentence as clear as possible. However, in general, even in formal situations, you don't use anata when addressing the person you're talking to. This is because Japanese people often prefer to communicate in a more indirect way, and using words like you can sound very direct. Anata is still used sometimes, however. For example, when you don't know who you're addressing, like in advertisements where the company doesn't know you personally. Instead of anata, the other person's name is often used when addressing the person you're talking to. As a general rule, in casual conversations, elements that can be understood from context are often omitted in Japanese. As long as the listener can recover the meaning from the situation or from what has already been said, the sentence remains natural. Let's look at another example of word omission in Japanese to see just how many words we can leave out and still have the sentence make sense. Imagine that your friend asks you where you're going tomorrow, and you respond that you're going to the cinema. Ashita wa eiga-kan ni iku yo. Right now, the meaning is very clear, right? Let's take out wa and ni. Then it becomes ashita eiga kan ikuyo. Now it means tomorrow we'll go cinema. Still clear, right? Because we know that we're talking about tomorrow, we can also leave ashita out. Then we get eiga kan ikuyo, which literally means we'll go cinema, but based on the context we know that it means tomorrow I will go to the cinema. Yo is a sentence ending particle that adds emphasis or informs the listener of something new. Because the other person asks you for something that they don't know, it's natural to keep it. Anyway, do you see just how many words we can leave out? Alright, that's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful and that it gave you the confidence to start making Japanese sentences right away. If you enjoyed how I teach Japanese and you're a beginner, make sure to check out my ebook on JLPT and 5 grammar, in which I covered this and much more. The link is in the description. Thank you so much to my patrons and past patrons as well, of course. Your support means a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Have an amazing day.